Good day to you. This is Anagalactic on a Sunday, the second day of March in 2025 from Chico, California, where for coming up on 3 years now, we've been studying cosmic geometry, cosmic science. The cosmos is a synonym for the universe, and there's another use of the word cosmos for macroscale objects. The word object here is being used in its most abstract sense, since a galaxy, for instance, is a cosmos because it's a unit. It's a macroscale unit. What is meant by macroscale depends on the lower limit of the one scale, that is, the various limits, thresholds of scale. The smallest scale is the quantum scale. The largest scale, so far, it's safe to say it hasn't been discovered because it seems to be of infinite extent. And in fact, the inner limit at the quantum limit appears to be of infinitesimal extent, which is quite a paradox. They're both paradoxes because they're reciprocal infinities. Infinities are related, and there are always two infinities. There's never just one. Once you learn that, you're equipped to begin to see the value of spherical geometry, which incorporates the notion of balance. This is a general principle of the universe, probably most famously stated by Sir Isaac Newton. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. It was Emmy Noether who got a Nobel Prize for her discovery extending Newton's concept of balance, where Emmy Noether was able to prove conclusively that every force balance of equal and opposite force for any force constitutes a symmetry. So now you need to concentrate with me on what is meant by symmetry. All right, so we have a universe of two infinite reciprocal extents. The two reciprocal infinities balance in spherical space. They do not balance in linear space. So this throws open the question, are we using numbers correctly? No, and we never have. Numbers are still within reach of the human rational system, but nobody has ever, in the history of science, discovered the true use of numbers, because nobody has been able to deal rationally with infinity. And now we get into a complicating factor, although I will show you very quickly that it's not a complicating factor because there's a much more specific word. A complexifying factor is not the same as a complicating factor. A complicating factor leads to fractionalization. I'm sorry, I should say that there's another word that's much better. Fractalization. That is the nature of a complicating factor in an attempt to get an equation. That's what we're always looking for because it's a balance. The equal sign that we use is meant to connote numeric balance. That is equivalency. Now, in physical space, the balance cannot be exactly equivalent because of the necessity for dimensionalization. These are a lot of highfalutin words that I'm throwing at you, and I'm not trying to confuse you or overwhelm you. What I'm doing is following a very carefully prescribed course of hierarchical introduction, whereby one of my practices, which I've found to be critical in orienting correctly, quickly to any subject, is to have a glossary a glossary. A glossary is a tiny dictionary, and it should come at the beginning of any scientific presentation, so that the words that will be used to formulate the concept as an equivalency will be fully defined. When you begin with the word consciousness, you're lost because you can't define it. If you begin with reality, you have exactly the same problem. Notice that I said exactly the same problem. This is the logical equivalent of force balance. The Noether-Newton force balance principle connotes a symmetry, and I've also already shown you, although I have not proved to you in this presentation yet, that the two infinities comprise all of infinity and they balance, but they don't balance on a polarity, and that fucks us up. That fucks us up. Because everything in linear logic is based on plus-minus polarity. There's a geometry behind that called the bipolar line. You may not have heard that term, but I'll bet you can guess that it means the line. That is correct. All right. So now we are introducing another level of complexity to the dually infinite universe, because there are exactly two of those dual infinities. That will make four infinities in pairs. The one that I just told you is the pair of spatial infinities. But you know that we have a perception of time, and time simply is not space. Now, Albert Einstein capitalized on that dichotomy to linearize time so that he could equate it with already linearized space. But space is not linear. I proved that in 2022. And that is a simplification which science is always seeking in order to gain direct understanding. We cannot say yet that we've achieved that for reality or consciousness or the universe, or in fact for time or space, nor for matter and energy. In effect, what I'm saying is, we do not as yet understand anything. That's not quite true, because we've learned of some structural, relational characteristics, and Einstein was one of the first men to bring this out using mathematics. Unfortunately, his mathematics connotes a geometry that literally can never be understood by the mind of man. And it's a matter of just pure guesswork. How Albert Einstein figured out the orthogonality of time and space. But there's a very sad note to Einstein's relativity. And it's so sad that men cannot accept it. It's too harsh. And so it's denied. What is being denied in general relativity? It is the fact that time has nothing to do with space. So what did Albert show? It's very simple to state, but I'm afraid that it at first is going to baffle you out of your mind. And my job is to make sure that does not happen, because that's about 3 to 5 seconds before you turn this off. It's not permitted by a scientist to baffle people who are looking to him for whatever he's presenting. You have to trust that this jackass is going to tell you something that you're going to like to know, that you didn't know before you listened. So far, I'm following my prescribed route of giving you a glossary so that we can begin effectively and efficiently to discuss reality and consciousness from some frame of reference. That's a key term, frame of reference. All right. Does the universe have a frame of reference? Before you try to answer that, understand why I'm asking you that. How would you begin to answer that question? The universe? Do you know how to define the universe? All right, that's why I asked you that question. To give you an inkling of how extraordinarily difficult it is to begin to impart new knowledge. Knowledge that you did not have before, but you're going to love to know. Do I have such a thing? You might be beginning to lay odds, because it's up to you when you turn this off. Of course, my job is to make you want to listen further, but I do have to deliver at some point. Sorry for the pun. So without attempting to answer that question right away, I'd like to continue with the line of inquiry which we have begun, which has to do with infinity. So what I've stated, but not yet proved, is that there are two balancing infinities in the universe. This would need to be proved mathematically, but the purpose of mathematics, which has been overlooked and denied for at least a century and a half, is that mathematics is shit if you don't know what you're doing with it. What are you doing when you use mathematics? Well, I've already told you one obvious fact. You're attempting to create an equivalence where there's a number on one side and a number on the other that are equal. They're the same number. Okay. Everybody knows that by the second or third grade. So why am I being such an asshole in stating rather brashly that nobody knows how to use numbers correctly? There is a superposition involved here. And that's one word that I've already taught you, but I'm not going to teach you again except in summary to give you another glossary word if you're tuning in for the first time. Superposition is a form of logic, which we're just now getting used to, whereby true and false overlap. In linear logic, that is absolutely impossible. But in the universe, it's the way everything is. There is nothing in the universe that is not superpositional. And what does that mean? There are two aspects. Here the word is difficult to choose, and I reasonably enough choose the word aspect, but the nature of what is being expressed is called a duality, which is a holism. A holism. You can't divide it. And the best example of that by far, at our current level of scientific insight, is the nature of EM, electromagnetism, which is composed of two words, which, believe it or not, are now known to be two forces, one of which is gravity. It's called magnetism at scale, but it's gravity. But it's the strangest form of gravity, because it manifests anti-gravity. Magnetism is baffling, because it exhibits the force of gravity, but it's not spherical. That's reasonable enough to say. So what is electroforce? It's the spherical opposite of magnetoforce. At macroscale, that same relationship appears. The relationship between the electric field and the magnetic field, first of all, is manifested by the only two particles in the universe, the proton and the electron. There are zero other particles. There are no other particles. That's radically different from the current reigning model. And so either I'm right or the model is right. And I think you can guess who's right. The model is wrong. At macroscale, we have the same relationship. But at macroscale, you're now confronted with spatial infinity. At the microscale, you're faced with quantum infinity. And that's the paradox, is that in both cases, it's the same infinity. So what's at the outside? Light. Light pressurizes the universe with centrifugal force. You will memorize that term, and you'll start to use it as part of your native lexicon so that you can begin to think clearly. Because there are two forces that balance the universe. And nobody likes to mention this because people don't see. We have the data. We have the equations. We just don't know how to synthesize it into understanding. That's why I'm here. To provide you with the keys of understanding so you will figure it out. And I'll be giving you all the hints along the way that you'll need with the absolutely necessary proofs. You must have proof. In philosophy, proof is fucked. In religion, proof is fucked. But in rational logic, proof is the key to understanding. That's why we use numbers. It's to explain geometry. So what's the geometry that I'm referring to? How many geometries are there to choose from? I will teach you that. No one else will. Because they can't. They don't know how. They don't know how to explain what we already know. Wouldn't you like to know what the wealth of knowledge that we've accumulated in a century means? That's called conscious reality. Do you see the connections starting to form here? So let's complete our first thought so that at least after 20 minutes, whether you choose to listen further or not, either to this presentation or the series ahead, or perhaps even go back and listen to any of the 870 videos I've already produced, let me give you something that you're going to like. At the outer edge of the universe is spatial infinity. Okay? That's so important to never forget. Infinity is at the edge. Okay? That's a paradox, because if there is an edge, there'd have to be something beyond the edge. Nobody has ever been able to rationalize that paradox. I'm showing you how you can rationalize it so that you'll understand it, and you'll be the first mathematician or physicist or scientist ever to have direct insight into the universe. Would you like that? There are about 36 more major discoveries to follow, which I will share, explain, prove, and drill into you so that you're happy. That's a big responsibility. And your responsibility is to evaluate me to find out when it's the right time to turn this shit off because you just fucking know I'm lying. That's up to you. I cannot control your reaction, but I'll do my damnedest to show you that I've got it and no one else does. So I'm the man with the right stuff. I've mastered astrophysics and quantum mechanics. I can explain anything fully to a high school audience, and I believe several grades less. Not beginning the way I'm beginning now, I would attune my presentation to the educational level of the audience, but everybody has native intelligence capable of understanding geometry. We're born with a geometric aptitude. We are not born with a numeric aptitude. We have to learn that. And if we learn it the wrong way, we get modern physics. Fractalized and psychotic, off course, forever, off a cliff, going nowhere. It will never recover. But you are blessed because you're listening to someone who actually has figured it out. At the inner limit of space, what is there? Euclid set a point. That's a dimensionless object. That's absurd, so Euclid is an old fucker who doesn't know shit. So we have to start over at the Bronze Age with Euclid and erase elements because it's wrong. It uses lines. You cannot use lines to understand the universe. That has been ruled out, pardon the pun again, by the universe, and I will show that to you now. What is at the center of the universe? Well, if you ask your astrophysicists, they will say that either there is no such thing because there's no rotational component to the universe, both of those being lies, or they'll say, oh, it's the Big Bang, which is psychotic. So you must not listen to those men. Once a scientist makes a mistake of that order, you can no longer listen to him because he's out of his mind. A scientist must be a self-corrective organism, a self-corrective machine. And if, as all our physicists have proved they are, incapable of correcting themselves, then they are destroying your mind. They're helping you to lose the game. They get money up the ass, so you don't worry about them. But you are alone, you're on your own. None of us is ever fully alone, or I would not be talking with you, actually to you at this point, but we'll be able to talk together very soon, if everything goes well. I'll be giving lectures wherever I'm invited, beginning today. I don't expect to get any invitations, but people who offer the possibility to me of gaining a platform to the public are now targets, and I'm going to battle. You're not inviting me anywhere? Well, that's unacceptable, and now I'm going to get you. You will invite me to speak at your university, at Madison Square Gardens, at Albert Hall. I don't care where it is, a little tea shop where we have a video camera recording our conversation, but you are going to interview me, or I will make you pay until you do interview me. So here's the secret. Where is the center of the universe? Well, it's not the Big Bang, and it's not nothingness. It's not a Euclidean point. What is it? It's a quantum, by definition. That we already know. The center of the universe is a quantum. A quantum of what? Well, it can't be space. Why not? Why can't there be a quantum of space? What would it be if there were a quantum of space? You're going to find it very difficult to guess because it's obvious, and you can't see it because your physicists won't let you see this way. because it's correct. What is the quantum of space? Now, I already told you. Maybe you can remember. Let me ask you the other paradoxical question. As well as space, what else is there in the universe? There's only one other thing in the universe besides space. Guess what it is? It's energy. Is there a tiniest amount of energy? You may already know the answer. Max Planck got it. Although he was using the wrong mathematical system, and so he got it wrong. There is no quantum of space to the proportion that there is no quantum of energy. If you're going to have a quantum, it's going to be space energy, which seem to be incommensurable. Energy takes the place of space. Energy is exactly and precisely what space is not. So that's the very first rational definition of space. Einstein got it wrong. He tried to equate space with time. That does not work. So what's the right answer? He was very close to getting the right answer, but alas, Einstein is just like you and myself. He has a brain, but it's partially conditioned by his environment, mine as well and yours as well. We have to overcome our native training by the baboons that trained us. They forced us to learn linear mathematics. That's the beginning of all the errors. You cannot use linear mathematics. Now, actually, that has been disproved. So you may suspect that I don't know what I'm talking about. This is beyond cutting edge, but it's not spooky, although you might say that it is. Let's go on and complete the thought so that you can evaluate what I'm trying to tell you. At the outer edge is the pressure of centrifugal force from light, and nobody can deny that. So I got that right. That's one half of the paradox. That explains the edge of infinity. It's a pressure field. So the universe is pressurized by light, but that's a force going out. That's energy. What is space? Space is what compensates for light. As light drags the universe out into illimitable infinity, to the proportion that light is doing that, gravity is pulling space into black holes. Now, where does this occur? In the case of light, when light goes out, it never returns. So it pressurizes the entire universe, forcing the universe to expand. So light is the cause of spatial expansion. But it's not space that's expanding, is it? It's energy that's creating a force field that's expanding. So that's one side of the paradox. What's at the center? At the center is something that will tear your mind to shreds, literally. So get ready to lose your mind as I divulge to you the secret of the universe. So you'll continue to tune in for the proofs that I've already given several times, but will do so again much more effectively because I've made several dozen further discoveries that you will definitely want to know. I do this for free. You owe me nothing. But I hope you spread the word so that I at least get a chance to speak at Albert Hall, Madison Square Gardens, Stanford, Cambridge, Dubrovnik, Göttingen, and Moscow. So that my discoveries can be shared. Okay? What's at the center of the universe is the proton. And that should shred your mind so that you never return to sanity. I like to exaggerate just to make this a little lighthearted, but you're either now or you're just about to pass into a new realm where you begin to see everything correctly. The proton is the quantum of space to the proportion that the electron is the quantum of energy. The quantum of space has position. It's called a proton. Why? It has a spatial center. Then what does the electron have? It has the spherical opposite of a spatial position. It has a centrifugal surface. And it's always trying to get to the edge of the universe, to the proportion that the proton is attempting to collapse space to nothingness. So light is attempting to go to one infinity to the proportion that space is trying to compensate. And the two particles that negotiate this symmetry that I discovered, it's a conjugal symmetry, which is mathematic. And the nature of the orientation in geometry is that space is perpendicular to energy. And it can be proved that energy is on the surface of a sphere to the proportion that space is at the center of a sphere. That's the center and the edge. At the edge is not any centripetal force. It's only electronic force in the form of photonic pressure. That has been proved. That's so well known that it's tautological. But the contra paradox has never been directly perceived until now. To the proportion that centrifugal force is changing the universe by forcing it outwards by the pressure of energy, space is spinning inward to every proton in the universe. And those are the two functions of the two particles. The space particle is rotating space inward to a center to the proportion that electronic force in the form of photonic, EMR it's called, that does not go in. It goes in the opposite direction of space to the proportion that energy is centrifugal force. Gravity is centripetal force. And all gravity is controlled by the proton. And that's 33 minutes. That's enough for now. I hope I've whetted your appetite. That's just the beginning. That's kindergarten. You're going to learn everything there is to know in astrophysics about the objects we've come to love, such as the galaxies, clusters of galaxies, and the magnificent birthplace of galaxies, which is the transformative, explosive black hole. The black hole is an explosive object. And that will be in an upcoming lecture. I'll try to produce 2 short lectures a day from now on because I'm dying. So I hope you tune in before I'm dead. This is Anagalactic, bringing you the secrets of the universe that no one else can do. I hope you tune in, but keep looking up. Brother, sister, keep looking up at night, because that's where you're going to get direct insight and you won't need men any longer. And then good luck, because we all need each other, don't we? Yeah, once evil is sifted out of the system, that's inevitable. That's logical. Hitler will get paid, Trump will get paid, Putin will get paid, Netanyahu will get paid. All the murderers, all the cruel people, all the nasty slobs, all of whom are men, you're all going to get yours real quick. I hope that you tune in to me before then so I can help you survive. Otherwise, we'll see you at the judgment when it's too late. It's time to rejoice. We won. Doesn't look like it now. It looks like I lose, everyone like me loses. That's not true. You can't go wrong when you side with the universe because of the jealousy of the designer for his beautiful creation. And if you don't know your designer, you're out of luck. Bye bye, sucker. Stay tuned here. I can correct your blindness. All right.